What's up, everybody? It's Alex Leak and Friends NFL podcast back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Bret on the show. What's up, Bret?
Hey man, how's it going? Glad to be back.
Going good. Good to have you on. This is the 2020 LA Chargers season preview.
That was weird.
It's going to be sick. I can't wait for the season. The Chargers last year went 5-11 and finished last place in the AFC West. Following the season, they refused to re-sign veteran quarterback Phillip Rivers and replace him with career backup journeyman quarterback Tyrod Taylor and draft their next franchise quarterback in the first round, Justin Herbert. First of all, what do you think of moving on from Phillip Rivers? Does it feel like the right time to move on?
I don't know I think it was the right time because they felt if they feel as strongly as they do about Herbert, they didn't want to miss there, not knowing what they could get potentially in the next couple of years. I don't think if they weren't as highly confident or as if they didn't feel that Herbert was as strong as obviously they think by drafting him, then it wouldn't have been the right time. But I don't know. It's been different with Rivers there, and I know that fans obviously, they just switched cities, so the pace I think they needed a change completely.
An identity change, yeah.
Right. And
you see that, and I think switching cities, going into a new stadium, trying to get new fans in a new, in a new city, in a new fan base. It makes sense to change your identity, start a new era, and go with the young quarterback Justin Herbert. There was some talk, actually a lot of talk about, the Dolphins taking Herbert instead of Tua, or somebody trading up, maybe possibly to Detroit to get the quarterback they wanted. The Chargers, you're like you were saying, they felt strongly about Herbert. I've heard some people saying that if the Dolphins did reach up and take Herbert, they would have been fine taking Tua. So it's interesting, the decision making there for the Chargers to get their next franchise quarterback. It's almost like we'll take the best guy available type mindset. What's your thoughts on Herbert? He's the guy now. They have Tyrod Taylor. Do you think Taylor starts the year week 1, and how long do you think it takes before they get Herbert in there?
I feel like with the changes that we talked about in the past with teams having these new guys come in, I think the way to do it, you can't push who you're hoping to be your future too early.
Yeah, you have to be careful with that.
And, coming off of a 5-11 season, switching, there's a lot of change. So the expectations shouldn't be realistically immediate success. Obviously you want that, but it's, with this change coming, they've made this big move. They have to do it right.
Yeah.
But I think you start Taylor week 1 and you let Herbert learn, instead of throwing him in there and letting him not necessarily letting him fail, but not letting him be where he needs to be so that he can continue your thought process of him being your future. And then if Taylor, ends up, if they start 3-1, I think Taylor's going to still be the quarterback.
Yeah.
If they're 2-2, maybe 1-3 after the first couple of weeks, I don't know what their schedule is, depending on if they play a division opponent. Maybe if they win or they lose that might make the difference. Seeing what the rest of the division's like, after the first 4 weeks. You obviously want to get him in there if you can, but the goal is to win too. So if Taylor is bringing you, success and winning, that helps you guys as a franchise, as well as Herbert, learn more on the sideline. I just don't like the thing I keep going back to, the Browns, like they had so many quarterbacks that they just threw in there, and it was a dumpster fire for like 50. Hopefully, they figured it out there with Mayfield, but it's just seeing that, like when Manziel came out, he was everybody was like, oh, he's the next, whatever, and they threw him in there right away, and he did not succeed. And that's what I think you need to avoid. Every team needs to avoid that. If this is your future, you can mess it up by, putting him in there too early. And that's something I thought about with the Trubisky thing too. And now seeing where the Bears are and what their, fans, what the city's mindset is, like now he has to do it. You don't want to put your star that you let go of Rivers. Rivers is not a bad quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's, it's crazy to think that they just let him walk like that. And but you have to have really high confidence in this kid. So if you do it wrong, you could be sitting at the bottom of your division for the next several years.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. If you're going to take a quarterback, top 6 overall, then top 10, even in the first round, you have to hit. You have to hit on that draft pick. They say a lot of draft picks, it's more, what do they say? It's more luck than science, the draft sometimes. But if you're a GM and you're going to take a quarterback in the first round or in the top 10 especially, he has to be a home run. You look, like you mentioned the Bears, they took Mitch Trubisky at number 2. There's so much pressure and heat on that draft pick to succeed. That's why you're seeing, and this is why I strongly believe that the GM for Chicago doesn't want to move on from him because it's going to make him look like shit for making that pick to begin with. Right. Especially with Watson and Mahomes back there. Yeah, that compounds it to like the 10th degree. So if you're LA, it's ideal to start 3-1 with Tyrod Taylor. He's not your guy of the future, but the longer that you can wait to put Justin Herbert on the field, the better. The longer he can learn, the more prepared he is. And so looking at their schedule, their first 3 games are Bengals, Chiefs, and Panthers. So I see, 1-2, 2-1, I think, in there.
Yeah.
Potentially. I don't see them beating the Chiefs, but their defense is good, and their defense played Kansas City about as well as anyone last year.
Right.
So, and Tyrod Taylor is a decent plug-and-play guy. He's been around for a while. He's a veteran. We saw him take the Bills to the playoffs. He wasn't great in Cleveland, but he's one of those guys that can come in and keep the offense afloat. If he's got a defense that can carry him, he'll be all right. But a lot of pressure on Herbert to be the man, and in my opinion, I'd wait as long as possible to plug him in. But I do think that he gets some starts his rookie year. Tyrod Taylor, he's a decent plug-and-play guy, but he's also somewhat injury-prone.
Right.
And, like we saw in Cleveland, he goes out in week 3, and that's part of the reason why Baker Mayfield struggled. He got thrown into the action week 3 on a bad football team for the most part.
Absolutely.
And bad coaching staff and stuff like that. So it's got to all line up. Hopefully, for the Chargers' sake, they hit a home run on the Herbert pick. They do re-sign defensive end Joey Bosa to an NFL record 5-year, $135 million deal. Huge money for a defensive end. What's your take on Joey Bosa? And who's the better of the Bosa brothers? Who would you rather have?
I mean, I think that they're, having him. Obviously, you want either one.
Yeah, they're both pretty damn good.
So re-signing him was great, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure I could pick one just because of where they are.
They're both pretty good. You can't go wrong either way. I agree with that.
And just being playing for the clubs that they do, it's different. How would they if they switch teams, is what I think. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that there's a difference. They're those, it's crazy to have brothers like that be as just dynamic of a duo, you would say, not on the same team as they are.
Yeah.
I mean, Bosa's it's their defense. They also added. They got Chris Harris Jr.
Got Chris Harris. Got Linval Joseph at defensive tackle.
Yeah, so they spiked. By re-signing him, they're playing around their defense right now. I think.
Yeah.
And he's somebody that you build either one of them, either Bosa is somebody that you build a defense around, not like the 49ers had to do that. But
go ahead.
But I think if you want right now, not knowing when, like you said, when you're going to insert Herbert into the lineup, if you know that you can build in one area, and that's defensively,
yeah,
for sure, and help, because they can, and it's like they took Harris from
Denver.
Yeah, so you take a division rival, somebody, he's an all-pro corner. You're looking at building that defense, and hopefully that, that helps a young guy too. Like you said, it's hard to just come in there and your defense gives up, 30 points, and it's like, all right, now you got to outscore them. So
yeah, looking at that defense, there's a lot of young talent. Like you said, I mean, you got Joey Bosa, who's still relatively young. Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame at defensive tackle. He's young. He's high ceiling. Kenneth Murray at linebacker. Rookie first-round draft pick this year. Derwin James at safety. Now you add Chris Harris to go opposite of Casey Hayward. You also got Desmond King. So draft pick a couple years ago. They got a really good young defense, and I don't expect them to really take much of a step back. I like what they're doing there.
If they can, and that's something, if they can build that core there for the next year or two, that gives Herbert time, even more time, which you like, to be able to develop him and get your defense into position to where now he doesn't have to do everything. Like you shouldn't expect that anyway. But it takes some of the pressure off. So I think hopefully they're doing the right thing. Like I said, it's not some letting go of Rivers like they did is not something that is as ideal as what we're talking about. But they have a plan. So, and it's crazy too because they beefed up their offensive line.
Yeah, they bring in Brian Bulaga. They trade for Trey Turner, and that's a great trade. Trading, disgruntled Russell Okung, who had a major health injury last year. And December of 2019, he did not rule out retirement. So you trade him straight up to the Panthers and get Trey Turner. It makes zero sense for the Panthers, who have so much dead cap.
Yeah,
but it makes a lot of sense for the Chargers. They're beefing up their offensive line like you talked about. Now, what do you think of, it is truly an end of an era because you get rid of Phillip Rivers. You also don't bring back running back Melvin Gordon.
That's right. Yeah.
And they do have Austin Eckler. They do have Justin Jackson, who I'm a fan of. And they also drafted Joshua Kelly out of UCLA in the 4th round. So now they have kind of a running back by committee. You've got a good, young franchise quarterback. So they could potentially, along with the young defensive pieces, rebuild pretty quickly.
Right. And in 2-3 years, they could be back, going on for that division right now, especially knowing how strong, Denver just won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. Kansas City won last year, 4 straight division crowns.
Raiders on the way up, I would think.
Right. So realistically, if you are in that organization there in LA, as far as the Chargers, you understand that you're not expected to be up here yet.
Yeah.
And you can be okay with that, knowing, like you said, if they can build that core with these young guys, they can and do it right. With Herbert, they can rebuild quickly and become, if they can get it together with those guys there for a year or two. They'll have all those guys here on their roster at least for the next 2 years. Hopefully that's something that they'll be able to figure out then. And by that time, Herbert, I would imagine, would be their quarterback. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think so many fans don't understand or don't like the fact of rebuilding, and they're like they're so caught up in win now, win now, win now, and if they're not winning at that moment, oh, the organization's trash, or we got bad this, or we got bad that. You got to realize that sometimes it's good to be patient. Sometimes a rebuild is the best thing for your organization, and it looks like in LA, new city, new stadium, new quarterback. They look like they have a plan. And so if you're a Chargers fan, a new Chargers fan, an old one that follow them to LA, have some patience because I think what they're doing is good long term. And who knows, 2-3 years from now, you could be looking at a Herbert Mahomes rivalry in a sick division battle.
Yeah, and Rome wasn't built in a day, Chargers fan.
Yep, exactly.
You're right, and that's the thing with the fans, that there's a lot of fair weather fans out there.
Yeah.
To see success, but you have to know and understand that the rebuild is the most vital part.
Yeah.
Once you've gone from your ceiling as your potential and dropped, like the Pistons, they've been doing it since 2008.
Yeah. No, like what Jordan said on The Last Dance. He said, hell no, I don't want to rebuild. He's like, look, there's no guarantee that a rebuild's going to work. He's like, look, the Cubs have been rebuilding for 70 years.
Right. But it ended up working out for them.
In 108 years later, I mean, shit.
That's not the rebuild that you want. That's but that is funny that you're. Yeah, don't expect that, Chargers fans.
No, if it's 108 years, you guys, that's not going to be good. But no, I like what they're doing. Looking at I agree. They're not going to win right away, but Tyrod Taylor is a capable quarterback that can step in week 1, win a couple games, keep them afloat, probably around 500, and then at some point bring Herbert in. My prediction is them going 7-9 with the defense somewhat carrying them. And they're in the 5 to 8 win range, where they could easily go 5-11 if they start slow, if they start 1-3, 1-4, plug Herbert in, and he does what he can. But I think all things go well, Tyrod Taylor starts most of the year and wins some games. Then 8-8, 9-7, 7-9 around there is potential for the Chargers. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say in that 5 to 8 range is very reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't, and if they're not going to be at or above 500 with Herbert, I don't think.
No, it takes a while. Nobody is Mahomes. It takes a while to develop that skill set in the NFL.
Right, and I mean, like Jackson coming in and doing it, like it's not.
It's
like,
rare.
They already those teams had somewhat of their other, I would say, aspects of the game complete.
Yeah.
You in LA have a lot more to fulfill before you can say that you're where the Ravens or Chiefs were when they obtained Jackson and Mahomes. So if I would say, if Taylor's in there for the year and you leave Herbert on the sideline for the whole year and he learns, there's a chance you guys go 8-8, 9-7, maybe get a wild card. And then
that's the ceiling.
Yeah, next year. And then next year you can have Herbert. But if again, they just have to do it right, and they can't do it too early. Like you said, they made a new identity, a new stadium, a new city, a new name. Like
it's a process.
Do it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to do it right. You got to take your time. You're competing with the LA Rams who are over there, and so they got Sean McVay, they got Jared Goff, those pieces. So you got to do it right so that you're the better team in LA and selling out that stadium. Um, yeah, I was gonna say one other thing, but I just forgot it. But oh well. It's going to be a hell of a year. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Charger fans, let us know what you think. If you think you're going to the playoffs or the Super Bowl, tell us we're full of shit. But if you like what we're saying, then hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we'll keep these episodes coming all year long. Thanks, Bret. Good shit as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Yep, and peace out, Charger fans.